series of welcome to our last series of webinars. This is our fourth, but today is a very special day because it's May 28th, and we know today is Menstrual Hygiene Day. As every year, we take this opportunity to advocate for ending the period poverty. This year, we would like to call for more action and investment in menstrual health and hygiene. And 𝗖ecie will, at the end as well of this webinar, explain the slogan from this year and why it's so important that we continue advocating for menstrual hygiene. You can move the next slide. I think we want now to give you some housekeeping rules. Please turn off the microphone and the camera as well if you are not a moderator for a good connection speed. We will during this webinar displaying some polls in the screen. These polls are questions that are straight ahead forward. So if you don't want to answer the question, you can move the screen, but we recommend if you can answer the question will be very good. So you get the screen out of the poll, the pool all out of the screen. Thanks for introducing yourself in the chat. We will not have to introduce each of us because we are now more than 100 participants and we hope to have more today. So please, as I say, try to turn off your camera and as well your microphone for good connection. We will have, after each presenter, we will have as well time for 3 questions, and perhaps we will have as well at the end of this webinar as well time for you to do other questions to us or to the moderators. So the first poll is in the screen. Please tell us which is the sector and area you work in, because we want to understand in which sector you're working. We can go to the next tab. We want to as well explain the agenda. Today we are very lucky. We have 3 very important presentations. We will have first Lebanese Red Cross presenting female and disabled friendly wash facilities. Then we will have Bangladesh Red Crescent talking about participatory monitoring of wash facilities and menstrual hygiene management distribution in Cox's Bazar. And then we will have Sri Lanka Red Cross, and the presentation is about as well participatory methodologies for addressing menstrual hygiene waste. We have very today with very vast experience and knowledge in menstrual hygiene management moderators. We have 2 fantastic ladies, Karen and Farah, both from Lebanese Red Cross. Karen oversees and she's the wash program manager of Lebanese Red Cross, and Karen is the senior soft wash officer. Both of them are working very strongly with menstrual hygiene beside of hygiene promotion. So we want to hear from them in a few minutes the experience from Lebanon. We have as well Kerul Bashar. He is a wash expert in Bangladesh Red Crescent societies, and he is working with the population movement operation in Cox's Bazar. He is responsible for all what is construction and designs of wash facilities and as well on hygiene promotion. And then the last is Pramud Pramudith, sorry for my, it's a clinical psychologist who has been working many years in humanitarian internationally. And he as well is a novelist, and he has a book that it's Behind the Eclipse. And both of them, Pramudith and Khairul, are one of our male champions. You know that we love to see not only women, we love to see as well that males are champions for menstrual hygiene management. So thanks all 4 moderators. We appreciate that you are joining us, and in so a special day like today, that it's Menstrual Hygiene Management Day. So I give the floor to 𝗖ecie that we can see the results of our poll.
Thanks, Alex. So I am now ending the polling, and I will share the results with all of you. So I hope that you can see it. Right, Alex? You can see the results?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So the question that we asked you today, the first one, just to have a brief introduction, was to know which sector and area do you work in. So as we can see from the screen, almost 50% of the audience today comes from a WASH background. So we're 47% of WASH colleagues. Then we have a 16% of health colleagues joining us, a smaller percentage of PGI, which is 6%, 10% are from disaster management or disaster risk reduction. And then there's a 22% that is from another sector. So please let us know in which sector or area you work in, because we're very interested in knowing who's joining us today. Thank you. So I'm going to now stop sharing the results and give the floor in a second to Lebanese Red Cross.
𝗖ecie, do we want to do the next poll from the sign of the letters before we give the floor, or?
Yes, we can. So I'm going to launch the next poll. And I'm going to give the floor to Lebanese Red Cross.
Okay, the next question is, does your national society organization construct female-friendly latrines? Please, this is our next poll, and then we are happy to give the floor to Karen and Farah. You are still mute, Karen. We can see you. Hi. Over to you.
Hi, sorry, I was waiting for the poll to finish. So hi, everyone. Already 𝗖ecie and Alex did the round of introduction. Just to quickly say, I'm Karen, the WASH PM in the Lebanese Red Cross, and I'm joined by Farah, the senior WASH officer, who will take over the second part of the presentation. So today we'll be discussing female and disability-friendly WASH facilities that are being currently piloted under the 𝗖cie project in Lebanon. The need for this project really comes from the needs that emerge on the ground during emergency. Time is always limited in the first phase of an emergency, and there's always, as you all know, a need for ready-to-deploy facilities that are easily deployable. For the latrines, there's a lot of designs, as you all know. National societies have their designs, UNHCR have their designs for emergency latrines, but there is a need for designs that are centered around menstrual hygiene management and persons with special needs. So we're talking about quote-unquote disability-friendly and female-friendly toilets in emergencies. From that, the Humanitarian Innovation Fund, HIF, launched its Menstrual Hygiene Management Project, MHM project, which aims to develop, pilot, and refine rapid community engagement tools and adaptable designs for MHM and persons with special needs friendly latrines as well as including bathing and laundry facilities in those designs. And this is something we will discuss as we move forward. This project is currently being piloted in Lebanon by IFRC and the Lebanese Red Cross. So the project aims to develop a design for menstrual hygiene management and person with special needs friendly facility for the first 4 or 5 months of the emergency response. So it's really once the emergency hits, this is when we need this design to be deployable. But once the emergency becomes a protracted crisis over time, which is, for example, what happened with the Syrian refugee crisis in Lebanon and how after a while it became more of a protracted crisis rather than an emergency, the design needs to be adapted based on user preferences and feedback. And this is extremely important in this design and something that has been taken into account as you will see along all the steps of the design. User preferences and feedback will feed back into the design. Material and equipment required for the design need to be locally available and aligned with what is typically available in an emergency. So we don't want to go looking for material that are typically not there. We want locally sourced material. The design has to be modular so that sections can be easily added and removed depending on the need and on the population, and for it to be easily deployable and easily stored. The target for this project are women, women with children, pregnant women, girls, women with special needs, and elderly women. The project approach. So the starting point for this project was the UNHCR standardized wash design for emergency, raised dislodgeable holding tank latrine. So basically the latrine that UNHCR uses in emergencies, where the wastewater goes into a holding tank, the holding tank has to be dislodgeable. We're able to remove the sludge from it, and it's a raised latrine. And we will see how this impacted the design later on. The model design will include, like I said, areas for bathing, laundry, and a drying area that are developed in parallel with the latrine design. And there's a lot of wash and PGI components that are taken into consideration in this, which is something that makes the project very exciting, but also quite challenging. So it's a nice mix. We take into account privacy and safety, lighting, the latrines themselves, storage and furniture, the water point, ventilation, hand washing point, menstrual waste disposal, and this is something extremely important, and we will come back to that later, cleaning and drainage. To talk about piloting in Lebanon, I move to 𝗖cie, my colleague, and she will tell us more about it.
All right, hello everyone. Okay, so moving on to piloting in Lebanon. Thank you, Karen. So just a little bit about Lebanon's geography and its landscape. So Lebanon is a country in the Middle East, and it's bordered by Syria from the north and the east. So Lebanon as a whole country is characterized by long, semi-hot, dry summer, and in the winter it gets rainy and snowy on the mountain ranges. Along the coast, summers are warm and quite humid, and rainfall is generally concentrated during the few days of the rainy season, which is sometime between autumn and winter. So when we move on to just a little bit about the topography of Lebanon, you can see that Lebanon has a long coast. If we can go to the next slide, please. So we have a general coast along the shoreline, along the Mediterranean Sea. And it has a narrow coastal plain, approximately 3 kilometers wide. This is where a lot of agricultural activity take place. We have 2 mountain ranges, one western and the eastern mountain range, and the eastern one is actually bordering with Syria. And in between these 2 mountain ranges is the 𝗖cie Valley, where actually we will be piloting this project. So if we move on to the next slide, we'll see the Baalbek Hirmel Governorate, and this is one of the 8 governorates in Lebanon, and this is the northern portion of the 𝗖cie Valley. It's a generally an agricultural region, but in some of its areas is quite dry and has arid lands. It is the eastern border of Lebanon, and it has roughly 250 millimeters of rain per year. So MAQ, which is basically Masharia al-A, which is the place where we will be piloting this project. Just a little bit about some pictures. show a bit of the sites that we have. So these ITSs, or informal tented settlements, as you can see around here, the land is quite plain, not too much shrubbery or greenery, and lots of mountains around this region, which is the mountain ranges that we have on the east and west. So moving on to the pilot location. So we selected the location, which is the ITS code, this 𝗖ecieः𝘁𝗲. This ITS has roughly 16 households, 74 individuals, and one of these individuals is an elderly woman with reduced mobility. So we decided to work in this location, one, because our volunteers are familiar with this location. We've worked in this ITS before, and this will help us with the access and with the community's familiarity with the Lebanese Red Cross. So we've worked in this place before, and the community is comfortable with us, and we're comfortable with them. So when we ask for their opinion or when we ask for their feedback, they won't hold back on this thing. So if we move on to the next. So we'll talk a little bit about the socio-cultural norms that we have within these communities. The pictures that you see over here are the latrines that are provided by LRC. So these latrines are one for every household, and they're provided with a water tank that is connected directly to the latrine for flushing and anal cleansing. And this is definitely something that the beneficiaries find very useful and part of their sociocultural norms. Latrine cleaning normally ranges between directly after the use or once or twice a week, and this depends per household and availability of water and cleaning products. Bathing is usually done inside the tent, so not in the latrine itself, and this is for privacy and safety for all the individuals of the household, and also ranges between every day to twice a week, depends on the family. Soap bars and shampoos are distributed in hygiene kits by LRC. When it comes to menstrual products, disposable pads are the ones that are typically used, not cloth or reusable pads. And when it comes to disposal, it's found that most of these individuals either wrap each pad in individual bags, and they're disposed by regularly. So regarding this project, we conducted multiple focus group discussions with the beneficiaries, and this goes back to the whole thing that Karen was talking about, is a user preference and feedback, which loops back into the design of the project. And we used the IFRC guidelines on focus group discussions for menstrual hygiene, and we adapted it to the project, added a few questions that were already in Arabic, and we conducted them with the beneficiaries. So just a little bit of the findings that we thought would be nice to share with you regarding this project, and actually help in further developing the design. All women that were included in the focus group discussion use sanitary pads, not disposable, or disposable pads, not reusable. And these pads are normally found at the local markets near their area, but currently they're finding it a bit difficult to afford it. This is due to the current financial situation that is going on in Lebanon. Each family is responsible for cleaning their household latrine, and most women dispose of the pads by burning them. And this goes back to cultural norms, goes back to religious considerations that we have with the community. Individuals normally bathe between 2 to 3 times a week, and this each one uses approximately 20 liters of water per shower. Of course, these numbers were useful when going back into the design to find out the best solution for drainage and for water provision at the facility. And when asked about the implementation of the facility, or the facility as a whole, that Karen will later explain about, the beneficiaries were welcoming of the idea, and of course they found that these facilities, given that they are women-friendly and take into consideration all persons with disabilities, they felt that these facilities could ensure safety, privacy, and a comfortable space for them to practice menstrual hygiene. So going to the latrine design, I'll throw it back to Karen.
So just to go over the design quickly, the design, like I said, is modular. So there are 2 main things that we want to talk about. The latrine design and the showers block design. I'll start with the latrine design. So here you can see on the top right corner of the screen, there's the two latrines that are normal size, and next to them is the latrine with for accessibility. It's a bigger size, and there's the necessary handles and all that. There's also the circles that you see in each of the latrines. These are the chutes for the disposal of the menstrual hygiene items. If we can move to the next slide, there's the ramp for accessibility to the latrines, and there's a hand washing point on the outside, and that's pretty much it for the and it's raised, so you can see that there's a tank onto the latrines where the sludge or the wastewater will go, and it will eventually be dislodged. We move to the shower block. The shower block has the other part of the project, which is the laundry, the bathing, and the yeah, that's pretty much it part. So the general, and which is on the left side of the screen, you can see that there's also a menstrual waste disposal chute. There's a shelf, a washing board, there are hangers, and shower plate, and of course the bucket and the ladle for the beneficiaries to shower. On the other side, there's the accessible shower cubicle, which is also it has pretty much the same things, but it's a larger area, and it has the accessibility items. If we can move to the third, to the 3D slide. Yeah, so here you can see how they are distributed. There's the ramp here as well. And then there's a final slide that shows the two blocks put together. Yeah, so the two blocks put together, on the top there's the latrines, two latrines that are accessible, and sorry, two latrines that are general, and then one accessible. And on the opposite side, mirrored, there's the two showers that are general and the shower that's accessible. And in between them, there are the cubicles, sorry, the cubbies for the storage of personal items and for drying the laundry. And there's ramps that go around the design. That's all from our side. That's what I wanted to discuss with you. And I don't know how we'd proceed with the questions, 𝗖ecie and Alex. That's it, over from my side.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, I forgot one last slide, which is the ways forward. So moving forward, what we have to finish now is finalizing the facility design. We're working on the fecal sludge part, and there's a big discussion on how to get rid of the sludge of the raised latrine, how to deal with the gray water, and the menstrual hygiene management items, and how they will be disposed of because of the cultural considerations that Farah was discussing. We will then pilot the facility in the proposed informal settlement and monitor its use and accessibility by the community, and use this monitoring and feedback, like I was saying in the beginning, to enhance and adjust the design and adapt it according to what the community is experiencing. And I think this time is for sure I'm done. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Farah. So I think we will now share the results of the poll we launched just before the start of the presentation.
Great. Can you see my screen, 𝗖ecie?
We can see the results, yes.
Perfect. So the question and the poll that we asked was, does your national society organization construct female friendly latrines? And we have that 45% say yes, always, 15% yes, but not for emergencies, no 11%, and 29% they don't know. Thanks so much for this, for taking time for the poll. I think now we will take 3 questions from the participants. So please raise your hand. I think, yeah, Celia, sorry, Nassif, raise your hand. So you can go ahead, please, and unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hi, I just have one question. You mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that women used disposable pads. Is there any thoughts on implementing the reusable ones, making it a bit better for the solid waste issue and the cultural issue that goes with it?
Hi, Celia, thank you for your question. As Farah was saying, the focus group discussions with the community showed that there's really a block on using reusable pads. The cultural considerations with them are not something that can be overcome with behavioral change. That's why we've moved forward with the disposable pads.
Thank you. There is another question in the chat, Karen. It's Ñeño. He's asking, what is the capacity of the lettering block and how many people can it serve?
So I think this will depend on the emergency and the amount of people who are present. In the piloting, we will pilot it in a community that has around 70 70 households. Again, sorry, 70 individuals. That way, it's more controlled, and then from that we can adapt the design.
You have another question in the chat from Anne Lloyd. Do you want Anne to ask yourself the question?
Hi, yes, thank you. A lovely presentation. My question is, was there any issue with getting everybody to agree on the same design? For example, I know in some communities people don't like lights and others really want lights. I mean, that's just an example, but I know people can say, oh, we don't want this, we want this.
Thank you for your question, Anne. So the issue that was faced mostly is with the disposal of the. So like I said, there's a chute to dispose the pads in, and that's really where there was a bit of a discussion. But the other points, no, they at least the focus group discussions that we held, there was no issue with any part of the design. It was just the disposal because they prefer to burn them. So there was this discussion between the beneficiaries and with us.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks so much. I see some other questions in the chat. Karen and Farah, perhaps you can yourself answer them in the chat, or if we are not able to answer today, we will as well take all the questions and send the answers right in an email. Thanks so much, both of you, for this fantastic presentation. We will run now another poll. We love the polls. So we will now launch another poll before we give the floor to the next moderator. This poll is, does your national society, country, position dignity or hygiene kits? Thanks so much, and let's move for the next presentation. From Bangladesh Red Crescent. I think they wanted to move themselves. I don't know, Letizia, how we will do that.
Yes. Hi. Do you want to share your screen, Carol?
Can you hear me? I'm gonna share my screen.
Yes,
Perfect.
go for it.
Thank you.
So everyone can see this?
Yes, if you can only put it in full screen, that would be fantastic. That's perfect, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And hi from Bangladesh, Red Crescent Society. I'm from Bangladesh. This is good afternoon from my side, and good evening, morning also. So I'm going to start the presentation. So our presentation topics would be Bangladesh Red Crescent Society innovative approaches on improved wash facilities and menstrual hygiene management in emergencies in one of the biggest influx in Bangladesh in Cox's Bazar. So here is the little bit brief about the Cox's Bazar. So as per the 2011 census, the population of Cox's Bazar is 2,289,990 individuals, and the location of the makeshift camps in Cox's Bazar there are 8 upajilas, and among them 2 are for the camps areas. Location of the camps, Ukhe and Teknaf upajilas. Source of income, main source of income in Cox's Bazar for the people is tourism, fishing, and farming. Nearly 1 million displaced people from Rakhine, they moved to Cox's Bazar in 2017 August. And government allocated 5.8 acres of land by the government of Bangladesh for these camps. 34 camps we have in this area. More than 115 local and international organizations operating the camps and host communities near the host community who are living just nearby the camps. And brief overview on WASH and MHM in the camps and displaced people from Myanmar. In camp setting, present difficulties for women and adolescent girls to have access to safe latrine, and the challenges faced by women and adolescent girls are summed up as follows. So we consider the adolescent girl in here in Cox's Bazar by the ICG and as well as the guideline from the RCRC. RCRC is the Refugee Relief and Repatriation Commissioners. They are the government stakeholders and the main lead here in Bangladesh for these camps, for this refugee also. So there is a lack of access of proper ministerial supplies to enable them to manage monthly ministerial period, difficulties in accessing private place for washing and drying ministerial clothes or pets. Women and girls face a significant challenge in the disposal of the used ministerial item, lack of bathing facilities, private bathing facilities we're talking about, because in camp area, till now we are following the guideline that the bathing facilities, the latrine facilities should be communal. So there is no like a private one with the household level. So they have to use the communal one, though it's a gender based, it's segregated with the gender base, but still it's not private, that much private one like a household basis. Disposals disposable sanitary pads no longer includes in the hygiene or dignity kit, and it created a huge challenge in waste disposal. So here in this influx from the government part and as well as the ICG, that's we are no longer using the disposable pad. We are not distributing these things to the camp area because it's a huge challenge with the disposal system. Yeah, it's a problem with the solid waste management. So now we are using the reusable cloth in the camp areas. So responding the challenge. So when we got some challenges and what was the response of BDRCS? So along with the Danish Red Cross, we do some community consultation. We do the FGD, and for all of you, this picture was taken before COVID situation. Community consultation with greater involvement of women, adolescent girls in the discussion and planning. So when we go for the planning, when we got the challenges, like what the challenge they have, and then we move to innovate something. So for that, we always include the community people. We discuss with them what their need, what they want. So that's all. So in MHM innovation from collection point to final disposal, because in this moment there was no disposal point for them to dispose their used cloth or pets. So we do the discussion with the committee people, we do FGD, we discuss with the people door to door, so as well as the different communication channels. So after that, when we got the like what they need, then we move on the improved sanitation approach. So you see in the pictures here, like there is a pit just outside of the latrine. So that's the disposal point for the MHM. So inside of the latrine, there is a hole there, so they can throw their used pads or reusable cloths there. So it comes directly to the pit. So that's a disposal point for them, and it makes them more happier. They say, okay, they can throw their ministerial used pad or the reusable cloths there by this hole. So that was one of the innovation. We call it improved sanitation approach. And then you see here in the pictures, there are lots of options there. You can see the ministerial waste disposal system, the hole there, just below the banner here. So it's a visibility, so they know how to use this hole, why they're gonna use these things. So there is a visibility there, so they will know how to use. There is a bamboo stick there, you see, that's work as an emergency alarm. So if some emergency happen, so they can also use this as a simple alarm. So, sorry. So you see there is the handle there, safety hand, so they can grab it. So that's basically used for the pregnant women, the people with disabilities, and it's also a children friendly one. So they can use this handle for make them safe. And then the training and provision of ministerial kits and materials. So after that innovation, we also innovate something. So we discuss with the community people. When we said them the guideline we got, that's no more pets there, so they need to use the reusable clothes. Then we discuss with the community people, and we collect a lots of people there. You can see in the pictures that's they are making their own pet by using the sewing machine and as well as the reusable clothes. So that's also given by our team. Like we train them how to make these things, and by the support of PSS team in BDRCS, because they have all the data almost to the adolescent girl, how many people are there. So we also do a combined one with the PSS team and BDRCS. And after that, you see that they are using their own reusable pads by cloth by their by they can make these things. And then female community volunteers of BDSS, you see that's how we coordinate with them, how we show them how to use it, how we make them aware, because we need to make them awareness for them. So because we are giving them lots of things, but if they don't know how to use it, so that's a bigger challenge then. So we do the awareness session, we do the FGD, we also discuss with them bilaterally. So how to use the disposal system in the latrines, how to use the cloths, so lots of things are there. And MHM organization, that's another part of there. You see that's how they are using the sewing machine to make the reusable cloth pad. Regular MHM organization. So since 2018, BDS is with the support of PNSS. So here in this influx, we have PNSS to support us. We have Swedish Red Cross, we have German Red Cross, we have IFRC, we have Danish Red Cross, we have Turkish Crescent to support us. So they do also do the regular MHM organization in the working area where we work. So by this organization, we cover more than 14,000 in beneficiaries. They're the individual, the MHM organization cover all the age groups, including men, boys, so girl and women get support from their family members. We also include the men and the boys, because when we start this organization, because in this area the male people are the main owner or the leader of their home, so of their households, of their family. So we need to make them aware so that they know why they important this, why they need to be hygiene in this situation, why they need more good food, why they need to be clean. So that's why we always include and is obviously first of all our male volunteer discuss with the male people first to make them aware this, okay, this is not a bad thing, that's the natural one, so we need to support them. Now how? So that's why we include the men and the boys, so they can get support from them. So in the current year, BDS is planning to upgrade the sanitation facilities, considering MHM and the design will be finalized after consulting with the beneficiaries. So that we show some of the pictures that we have the MHM facilities, but not in every latrines we have in this area. So we are just we plan that, so we will also upgrade our existing latrines, and for the new one we also consultant with the community people, that's how we can improve this design and how it will be helpful for them. And regular MHM kit distribution. So we distribute MHM kit every year twice. So every 6 months we distribute the MHM kit among the adolescent girl, and we consider the adolescent girl the age limit from 11 to 49. So since 2017, we distributed more than 45,000 MHM kit to the women and adolescent girls. We distribute the MHM kit in every 6 months. And recently, 8,000 people in our list in 4 camps we are working now. camp 13, camp 17, 18, and 19. So we also doing the distribution regularly. So here you see also the MHM kit content in the right side. So our content is reusable cloths. It's not the pad. Actually, the pad is also only for the host community, not the camps. So the reusable cloths, 10 pieces, bathing soap, 100 gram, 4 pieces, laundry soap, 130 gram, 2 pieces, bucket with lid, 5 liter, 1 piece, and a bag or a pouch for packaging. So that's our kit content. So before that, it was less than this. But after we distributed the MHM kit, we do the post monitoring distribution, and then we find that they need more reusable cloths, they need more bathing soap. That's why we also upgrade our content. Here you see the community driven approach since 2017. We also discussed with the committee when we gonna construct any latrines. We also discuss with the committee people that's what they need to make them like more ownership. So when you discuss with the community people and they are involved with the planning, designing, and site selection, so they feel more ownership and they always keep it clean. They wanted to use it as their own. So after that, we can say the key learning for organization, policy makers, and the donors. Establish MHM as a standard components of WASH. Include women and adolescent girls in planning for sanitation and hygiene activities. Involve male members of the family in discussion about MHM. In emergency setting, community latrines should always ensure the safety and dignity of women and girls. Funding for MHM activities should be prioritized in WASH program. So that's it from my side. So that's to you see that's from our Cox's Budget PMO office. They are the management people. So if you wanted to contact, you can contact with me. Either you can also directly contact with them also. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Carol. Thank you so much for this very interesting conversation. So before taking the 3 questions, we're going to start by sharing the poll's results. So I'm going to end the poll now. And I'm going to share the results. So the question was, does your national society or country preposition dignity or hygiene kits? So 22% of you have responded that yes, you do so with MHM kits. Then we have a 16% answering for the dignity kits. 29% actually answered that we preposition family hygiene kits. 3% said no. And we have a 30% of the audience that responded I don't know. So thanks a lot for responding to our poll. These are very interesting answers. I'm gonna now ask if you have any questions for Kairul. I'm gonna go through the chat to see, and then I'm gonna launch the 3rd poll, the last poll before our last presentation today. So please feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to go through the chat.
I see, Letizia, a question from Stefania, but perhaps this is more for us and we can answer that. So I can answer that in the last question and answer.
Okay, perfect. Do we have any other question? I'm going through, but I don't see it much. Right, so we have a question from Rupert that asks, what is the mechanisms for emptying the pits with MHM waste material and how frequently? And ultimate disposal. Carol, this is for you.
Yeah. Can you please, pardon, can you please just repeat?
Yes, actually, Rupert, do you want to take the floor and ask it yourself, or do you want me just to read it again?
No, that's fine. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was excellent. I was just asking, the pits that are outside of the latrine that then fill up with the menstrual hygiene waste, how frequently are they emptied, and then what is done with that waste? Is it incinerated or is it taken somewhere else? So who is doing that, and how are you managing that?
Okay, thank you for your question. So actually, so when we start in 2018, so previously we didn't need to clean it up because it wasn't full. So in this time, so what we did when it was full, we check. It's checked by our volunteers. We have our volunteers. They regularly visit the site, and that's what they check. If they find that it's full, so we take it in our solid waste management site, because before that there was no this much site, but now we have available solid waste management site, and we do work in with solid waste management. For this, previously we do the incineration, but now we are thinking like to use it because it's a reusable cloth, and after a certain period, so we wanted to use it in our solid waste management site, and we are thinking like to go for like when we first time we will go for the incinerator, and as well as after that we can use it for the fertilization or composting. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks both. So we have another question, Carol, from Denise asking, was involving the ladies an issue? Like they had high expectations that you could not meet, for instance? Thank you. I can repeat the question for you. Sorry, maybe that was a bit quick.
Yeah.
So Denise is asking if involving the ladies was an issue. Or for instance, if they had expectations that you could not meet, for instance.
Okay, so involving the leaders in the beginning of the influx, it was the issue, because you know that they are like very conservative families comes from this area. So they're like very conservative. They don't want to discuss about anything like that. So first of all, the male people goes to contact with the leaders, family leaders, and discuss with them. It takes time to make them share like, okay, it's a good thing, it's natural. So it's because there are lots of myth out there, so we need to make them, okay, these are the myths, so these are the reality. We need to also discuss with them. When you discuss with them the health issues, the risk there, so then they consider, okay, now the time has come to discuss with you. So when you discuss with them, it takes time. Firstly, it was like a combined one, not only the wash people, also when the health people visit there, so we discuss with the sectors also, so they help a lot. When health people goes there, they also give some discuss with them, okay, that's the important issue. When someone comes to discuss with you, please discuss with them, please give them time. So it changes day by day. It was a challenge, a very big challenge to discuss with the people, because no man wanted to discuss about menstrual hygiene. Yeah, so now it's become like easier for them. Now it become general for them.
Thank you very much, Carol. Alex, you want to go ahead and respond to the initial question that we had?
Yes, it's the question from Stefania. I think only to clarify, different humanitarian actors and agencies have different names and contents for these kits, yeah, which can also change depending on the country. So there are different names like include dignity kits, women's kits, female kits, and menstrual hygiene kits. But regardless of the name, they are relief items that can be prepositioned and distributed in an initial acute emergency response to meet the immediate menstrual hygiene needs, right? So I only wanted to confirm that we, in our menstrual hygiene guideline, we analyzed that, and we wanted to standardize as well our federation language, IFRC language, that we don't get confused. So please go to the menstrual hygiene guideline. It's very well explained what we mean with menstrual hygiene, family kits, hygiene kits, and the other kits. Thanks so much. And protection, gender, and inclusion kits.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I will go through, and obviously I will go through it. Thanks a lot.
No, sorry, it was a question from Stefania that I was answering here. So thanks.
Oh,
it was my response to the
so
chat.
it was your response. I was thinking like you just let me know. Okay.
No, thanks so much.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're gonna just take a last question and then move to the last presentation. There's a question from Danielle asking, for the reusable cloth, where do the women and girls wash them? And more importantly, dry them? Thanks. Regarding the reusable cloth, just to know where they, if you can tell us a bit more about where the girls wash this cloth and where they dry them.
Okay, for reusable cloths, they washed their because there is a laundry space in the camp area, and as well as they basically washed it in the bathing facilities. And you see in the camp level now they make their own bathing facilities just beside their household. So it's not given by the organization; it's they are doing this by their own also. And we are now trying to consider, and we are discussing with the 𝗖cie and the government part. That's how we can make it like more private, how we can make it like more easier for them to access. So that's now they're using the bathing facilities and the laundry facilities have in the camp areas, and they just basically, if we say like they are drying these things in just besides their shelters. Sometimes it's inside most of them because they don't want to show these things. Yeah, so we are still working on it, and we are discussing with the people, so how we can help them, how we can make people and easier, and it looks like simple for them that they can dry their things just not inside, also outside in the shelters.
Great. Thank you so much, Carol, for your answers. So I will now launch the last poll, and then I will ask Pramodit in the meantime if you can share your screen for launching the last presentation. Thank you. So the last poll that we are launching is, what is your biggest challenge in addressing waste management in your programming? So the first is unclear if it is a problem, need for research. The second response is difficult to maintain facilities. The third option is difficult to collect waste from facilities to final disposal. And finally, challenges with final disposal or other. I'll let you answer while Pramodit is presenting us the Sri Lanka case study. Thank you. Pramodit, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, Pramodit from Sri Lanka Red Cross. Today actually I will talk about the participatory methodologies that Sri Lanka Red Cross has utilized in menstrual hygiene management and generally solid waste management in post-mat of the floods. So as my network is dropping, I will switch off the video, but whenever I'm interacting with the participant, I'll try my best to switch on the video. I think it all goes with everybody. So to give a little bit of about the context, Sri Lanka is a country that received rains from distinct two monsoons, the northeast and the southwest monsoon. That is because of the central highlands that divide the country. And most of the years, rains induce floods with serious cascading effects that includes drinking water source contaminations, and also increase of vector-borne diseases, etc. And plus the serious damages to the habitat and livelihood. And besides that, what happens during the aftermath of the floods is that the affected population are temporarily given shelters in the schools. As a result, when the population affected are relocated, the schools have to deal with a lot of waste management issues, including menstrual hygiene, the used menstrual hygiene, menstrual pads, etc., waste, etc. So what we are here talking about is how Sri Lanka Red Cross Society conducted a specific behavior-centered initiative to tackle the waste management during the post-mat of the floods.
Pramodit, sorry to interrupt. I think the slides are not moving. Are you?
Yeah, looks like my slides. Okay, so this specific case study is actually based on an intervention done in a very remote Muslim community in the north central province of Sri Lanka, which is extremely vulnerable for the seasonal floods. And it happened in 2019 during a field visit conducted by IFRC and the National Society together. And then we found that piles of garbage or waste in the schools where the flood affected population were kept for temporarily. And then as our community mobilizers talked to the communities, and then they found out that nobody, especially men who were mostly doing the waste management activities, didn't want to touch anything that had menstrual pads or menstrual waste in those garbage piles. So then our challenge was to engage communities during the aftermath of the floods to do the waste management, plus also to explore culturally appropriate image waste management system in the schools in both flood times as well as in the peace times. Because as we dug out as we sat with the communities and talked with them, and we discovered a larger problem. That is that not only during the times of flood, but also in the schools, the girls did not want to, the girls did not have a proper place to, dispose their menstrual waste in the school settings. Even though in Sri Lanka, one may get the perception that the infrastructure is better than in many crisis scenarios. So we wanted to address these two issues in this initiative. So what we tried was to follow a simple process, which is pretty much similar to the Federation's 8 steps for hygiene promotion and MHM action, but a little bit detailed in terms of engaging communities across the social ecology. So what we call this ABC, as simple as ABC, assisting behavioral change, 10 steps. So that is focused on behavioral determinants of the population involved. As we, if I go through the stages, the first stage is analyzing the way of the current practices of the community where we want to start the program, and also followed by community analysis of community perceptions and of the problem, because sometimes community fail to understand that there is a problem. And then we also go deep into analysis of causal attributions, plus this, and after that we, with the communities of all layers, from all layers, we start facilitating the process of change. And that also, that is pretty much based on the behavioral determinants. And then during the process, we also get to understand the barriers and also the resources that the community does have, and resources in terms of physical resources and also the human resources, such as change agents. And some cases we also use the Federation materials such as youth as agents of change. And then in this specific activity, we also use the waste that we found in the communities, the empty barrels for produced in the menstrual incinerator. So then the design of program, of course, in the design process, we involved not only women or the people who are directly linked to the issue, but also men, because it is paramount that whatever the problem, specifically the issues related to women, the engagement of engagement of men is paramount. So therefore we involve not only just men, but also adults and boys, because they will be one day the adults who will lead the society. And then support process of change was based on the trans-theoretical, the stages of change theory, because we thought that in that particular society or the community that work better, but this is not a rigid process. We can choose whatever really much into the context. And then the ninth stage, which is, I think, according to me, one of the most important aspects to support the ritualization, because there could be different circumstances that people may not keep on adhering to the adapted behaviors, and there can be relapses. So through the monitoring and also continued support, we try to make sure that they stick into the behaviors, which is we call ritualization support. And for sure at the end, we also wanted to evaluate, which is very important to see the impact of our actions. And as I said before, so as this was about the disposal of menstrual waste in a school setting, so we thought of involving the whole social ecology of the child, or the, I would say the school, taking a school as part of the community. So we first involve the users, the school children, and the teachers, and also we at the communal level, we involve formal and informal community leaders, parents specifically, and also organized and formal and non-formal organized groups. For example, shopkeepers, and also the school development board, etc. Not only stopping there, we sensitize the the teachers who are male and female both, and going beyond that, the public health inspectors of the Ministry of Health, and also the MOH, we call the Medical Officer of Health, who is responsible for the area, so that we make sure that the project or the initiative is accepted by all layers and supported by all layers, so that at the end we are able to sustain the impact. So it's very much important to look at take the social ecological model in this. And also at the end, what at last formulate this the approach is just few tested tools, or the few tools tested in that particular context. We use a modality that Sri Lanka Red Cross used during the post-mat of 26 years long conflict in north and east of Sri Lanka, called the facilitated group discussion modality, that involves different series of discussions with different layers of society, taking the level of power they share, taking the level of knowledge they share, etc., in these different small segments of groups, and then triangulate these data collected with a larger group that can sit together and contribute constructively for an idea. So we use facilitated group discussions as the major tool. And then in parallel to that, we also utilize the key informant interviews with all layers across social ecology. And besides that, as I mentioned before, we also focus that if rightly facilitated, or we believe that if rightly facilitated, a person who could be a barrier can also be a change agent. So we try to utilize as much as possible energy on advocating on certain societal level barriers and also systemic barriers. That's why we involved a lot of institutions, government, formal institutions in it. As I mentioned before, we use the trans-theoretical model of behavior change, but also anybody can use any applicable theory to the context. And one of the most important aspects is also use the community-owned resources. So in this menstrual hygiene incinerator, we specifically use the labor from the community, and we oriented them, and then we used waste barrels, tar barrels that were lying, and they were breeding grounds for mosquitoes after the flood. So in that way, we also prevent the vector-borne disease, the spread of vector-borne diseases, and also enhances. Sometimes, like when, especially in the farmer communities, sometimes it also give alternate livelihoods. So as a result, we got a lot of men engaged in that as well. Not only in the I mean, as a livelihood, but also giving the valuable inputs into that. And then all together is pretty much a community-centered program design. And then, as I said before, mentioned before, we facilitated the ritualization, and also I have to mention that this incinerator design, the initial incinerator design, I will go for the next one later on in the next slide. What you see now here is pretty similar to what you have in some organizations have facilitated, or in camps in Sittwe in Myanmar, the Rohingya response. So there was I think there was a consortium with Solidarity International and Oxfam that they introduced kind of an incinerator in the Muslim communities in Sittwe camps. So this design was inspired by that, but largely adapted to Sri Lankan context. So it's also says how best we can introduce something that has been practiced somewhere else to a different context, supporting facilitating the acceptance and also process of adapting it to the context of the current context with through the engagement, systematic engagement of the communities. So I explained about the facilitated group discussions. So I'll not.
Sorry to interrupt. Just to let you know that we only have 4 minutes left for the presentation, because then we have to move on. Thank you.
So I will not explain this one as I went through this before. So now the process, this is a visual projection of what happened. So the one that is with the Sri Lanka Red Cross logo on the top is the one that we introduced to the communities initially, that they adapted first, and then they went on changing to the one that we see without the logo of Sri Lanka Red Cross Society. On the top, I have mentioned community-led design. So I think we introduced one first, and then community developed into a very, I think, privacy ensured kind of a modality that is more sophisticated than what we did. So this is a classic example of for the community-led modality. And at the end, still we do monitoring and also give the ritualization support to wherever possible, and based on the stages of change modality. And to tell you that this model of incinerators have been adapted in many villages at the moment. And it has been accepted by different communities of different cultures or their religious beliefs, and they have done their own type of incinerator for the moment. So from my side, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pramodit. So before taking the questions, as usual, I will share the results of the poll that we launched just a few minutes ago. So the question was, what is your biggest challenge in addressing waste management in your programming? We see that 12% have replied that it is quite unclear if there is a problem and we still need for a bit of research. Actually, the same amount of people, just one person more, said that it is difficult to maintain facilities. We have 24% of the audience that replied that it is difficult to collect waste from facilities to final disposal. And the majority, so 32%, replied that there are challenges with final disposal. Finally, 18% still replied that it's related to something else. So if you want to tell us more in the chat, please feel free to do so. We are always very interested in knowing more about this issue. So let's now have a look at the questions that we have for Pramodit. If anyone wants to raise their hand, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, you can also write questions in the chat. Okay, Pramodit. So we have one question, which is quite a big question, asking how we can tackle the problem of waste collection. So if you have some insights from your experience that you want to underline, please go ahead.
Actually, waste, when it comes to waste collection here, actually, what we try to do is, you know, as there were menstrual waste in the solid waste that were collected that were in the school ground, so men didn't want to involve in managing that. So we facilitated the separation in a more sustainable way, so that the dignified and sustainable way, so that the girls can have their, you know, the menstrual waste incinerators, so that the men can go ahead collecting the waste as they used to do. So in this particular, if I talk about this particular context, I would say that the challenge was the menstrual waste being in the waste that are collected in the schools after the postmat of the floods. So separation was the one that, you know, we use separation of that waste, ensuring that dignified access to sustainable solutions, so that the waste is manageable by men. So I think it's pretty much, this gives a little bit limited idea about general waste collection, but I think, and also this being an incinerator, so they collect only ash. So it doesn't involve any cultural taboos. Did I respond answer your question?
Thank you, Pramodit. I am going through the chat to see if there's any additional question for your presentation. Again, if someone wants to raise their hand to follow up on any questions, please feel free to do so.
I will only ask Pramodit, because I saw how, you know, the community adapted from the first model that you show them. So how long took this process? Did you see this change in how long time? And I think it's a very, very good example on bringing solutions to the community that perhaps they didn't think about before, right, Pramodit?
Exactly. I think what was the breakthrough was introducing an incinerator to the community, number one. That was once practiced by Solidarity International and also Oxfam in Myanmar. So when we introduced this, so the community adapted that, you know, the community made that with the resources that they had in their hands. And then, you know, once they got to know the logic behind how it operates, I think then they went for their own solution that is pretty much sophisticated than ours, and also you could see that it is embedded or fixed to the back wall of the toilet, so that nobody is seen when you walk, when you drop the used pad into that. But it took around that. Also, I have to mention that this is in the school setting, so that there are resources, there are expertise, there are also systems involved, the government and also public health officers, so that they did it within 6 months. But this process, I would say, is pretty much facilitated because it has been introduced to the existing system. But if it was in a community, I would say that it will take longer time. Probably it may not also go that long.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Over to you, Letizia.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Pramodit, for your answer. Also, I just want to remind everyone that that if you want additional information on this case study and on Bangladesh as well, we have the global compilation of case studies that you can access on our WhatsApp Mission Assistant, and you're gonna have the full case study there. So, Alex, I think we can proceed to the take-home messages. Thank you. So before letting you guys go, we just wanted to leave you with a few take-home messages that we think are fundamental to resonate on. So the first one is use always facilitated group discussions to leave no voice unheard and maximize community participation in decision-making and program design by creating safe spaces for women and girls where they can talk openly about menstruation. As we saw, this is really helpful for them to have a good and smooth implementation of the project. Then involving women and girls in the design of the kits and in the selection of items ensures that actions are locally appropriate and effective in supporting the dignity and health of women and girls. The third point is waste management, maintenance, communication, and discrete design are 4 essential elements to successfully dispose menstrual waste in emergency context. So, of course, this is always to reiterate the fact that without communication on waste management, this cannot be successful. This cannot be fully successful. Then menstrual waste is an issue for the whole community, of course, particularly men who are often key actors in waste management, as we saw with Sri Lanka's case study. It's always fundamental to involve them. And also involving users in a participatory way, collecting feedback throughout each stage of the project cycle, and then acting on this feedback is fundamental for, of course, amongst everything also for accountability, because we always want to be accountable for the projects that we implement. Finally, we wanted to conclude the take-home messages on this year's Menstrual Hygiene Days slogan that we want to call for more action and investment in menstrual health and hygiene now, because this is very much needed, and we see this for every project that we implement. So related to the slogan that I just mentioned, what can we do for advocacy? Today is the 28th of May. The 28th of May is Menstrual Hygiene Day. And as you can see on the screen, there are official slogans, official hashtags that you can use. MHD 2021, it's time for action. So let's gather everyone. Let's use this wonderful social media assets that have been created by Wash United. You can use your logo and add them to the social media assets, to the infographics, and circulate them to show and really to show your commitment to raise your voice on menstrual hygiene management. So ending period stigma by 2030 is possible. To make it happen, we need more investment now. And as always, just a reminder that we have a menstrual hygiene community of practice. It's on the e-learning platform. So for those who haven't signed up to the learning platform yet, please do so. And for those that are on the learning platform but are not part of the community of practice, please sign up. We have a lot of information on menstrual hygiene management. Plus, we have a playlist where you have access to the presentations that you see throughout our webinars, but also to the recordings. So this recording will be up on the playlist and on the menstrual hygiene management community, and the slides as well. So please go there and keep in touch with us, because we want to hear more about what you're doing in MHI. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank everyone. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Perhaps we can, if the ones who remain, perhaps we can put our camera on in the last time, and then we can do a picture.
Thank you. Happy MH Day.
Let me try to, this is great. Stopping here, oops. So 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.